I wanted to talk today about a verse that I've had this quote on my a scrap of paper on my desk. I don't know how many years. It seems to me that it was even taped on the wall at my desk in Seattle. So I've had it around for a long time. Um, it's a. It was always attributed to Lama Tsongkhapa, and I never looked very deeply into where it came from until recently. But the particular verse is this: so sensitive an ecology is the interdependence of all, that the slightest attention and assistance to others creates moral elevation for ourselves and humanity, while the slightest indifference or neglect towards others creates moral harm for ourselves and our civilization. You know, that's an audacious claim. The slightest attention and assistance to others creates moral elevation for ourselves and humanity. Ourselves, okay. Humanity. The slightest indifference or neglect affects our civilization. So on the one hand, we talk, especially around here, like we believe that. But then when it comes down to my own personal practice, and I admire it. Why did I have this thing posted for a long time? When it comes to my personal practice, where does this sit? You know? So I've been thinking about this. Insensitive in ecology is the interdependence of all. So ecology is about the relationship between organisms and the environment. So this interrelationship between organisms and environments, the interrelationship between all phenomena is so interdependent that the slightest help or the slightest thought of harm affects ourselves and the world around us. It's a verse, it's actually a half a verse. It's from a J. Rinpoche text called The 27 Verses on Mind Training. I've never seen another translation for it. I've never heard a teaching on it. But it's translated by Lex Hickson in his book, A Mother of All Buddhas. It's really a beautiful, kind of amazing, profound 27 verses that are really meditation verses for cultivating, the reasonings for cultivating a mind of love and compassion. The rest of this verse goes on to say, like the second half of that verse says, the faintest spark of ill will toward other beings can burst forth into a terrible forest fire, consuming vast expanses of sympathetic joy. Even the faintest negative reaction or malicious wish opens wide channels throughout our entire being for life-destroying poisons of negation and life-obscuring shadows of self-cherishing. It's dramatic language. So I wanted to take this apart a little bit. Now that we're doing our reasonings in class, I'm trying to apply, I can't do it as a syllogism, I'm trying to apply things. So this claim that the slightest good intention of neglect or ill will affects the entire civilization. Like, what do I know about that? So I do have some experience of that. And all of it, when we prove things to ourselves in some ways, it always has to come back to our direct perception, our direct physical experience, right? So when I was in college, I was in acting classes. My professor was trained in the Stanislavski method, which is about generating emotion in a very genuine way. And one of our exercises was, and the theory of emotional development in that acting school is that you can't sustain either love or hate in any period of time, that they're on a continuum, so that you can only hold it for so long. Now, from the Buddhist view, we can cultivate love infinitely, but you cannot cultivate anger infinitely, actually. You can't hold it. But in our exercise, we would have, I was in a girls' college, so we would have women's college, excuse me. We'd have 4 or 5 people appointed to sit on the front of the stage, and then the people behind them were told to generate love or hate and to project it to the back of the neck, to the hairs on the back of the neck of the girl in front of us. This is our exercise, this is acting exercise. So we're generating hate, we're thinking about all the things we can to generate hate, or we're generating love, which I'm afraid was all about attachment, but coming up with positive thoughts with the best we could do. Very shortly in the semester, the people sitting on the front of the stage could tell which emotion was coming to them at which order. Because the professor gave us random orders. You know, you do this, you do that. The people in the front of the lip could tell what emotion was being projected to the back of their neck accurately, a lot. By the end of the semester, we knew who had done it. We could tell which student of our fellow students had done hate, which had done love, and the order that they had done them in. This was not psychic training. This was a sensitivity to emotion. It was a very interesting experience. So, like, I know that. We also have to be careful about not mind reading from other people and so forth and so on. But you know, when you walk into the room and somebody is angry, we feel it. When we walk into a room and everybody's happy, we know it. We may not register it, but we know how it feels. And then the other thing I was recalling about this experience was, for many years I worked in a natural healing system where I had my hands on people's bodies a lot, all day long. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people I've had my hands on in a still way, so they're not moving, they're still. Sometimes if someone was a smoker, even I didn't smell them when they came in, if I had my hands on them, I could taste it. Someone was a drinker, or they had had a drink that had been drinking the night before. I had my hands on them, I could taste it. People with undergoing chemotherapy, if I had my hands on them, I could taste the metallic taste of the chemo. So it's in their skin, it absorbs through my skin, and then I'm having a sense perception of what's going on in their body. So as I thought about these in relationship to this verse, it's like, well, yes, I have some experience of how it is that, that, how does he say it? So sensitive and ecology is the interdependence that the slightest attention has an effect. So, I don't know, I find this very convincing. You may have to look in your own life. Probably you didn't have such an esoteric background as I do, but I think there are other experiences there. So that's the first part. And even, that we've had emails lately about how germs are spreading. People are not doing towels. People are not doing soap bars. People are, paying attention to those kinds of things. It's the same thing, actually. Subtle. We can't see it. We believe it. Or we wouldn't be sending emails to each other to stop using the tea towels, right? We can't see those things. We don't know. But we have some experience that, I used the towel that so-and-so with a cough blew their nose in, and now I'm sick. So here we go. What we do matters. Yeah. So the second part of this then is to practice this mindfulness. What's the state of my mind with constant mindfulness and vigil alertness accomplish others' good? Well, if I think about it honestly, I help sometimes. I have a genuine wish to help sometimes. I find that I am indifferent or neglectful most of the time. Negative reactions and the faint thought of negativity will pass, or ill will pass through my mind like a sparkler throws sparks. Just all of those add up. All of those add up. So it's not about making people happy for the sake of making people happy. This is something, there's some dangers in paying attention to this too. I have a lifelong habit of trying to make people happy for selfish means, for selfish reasons. It's not about being a people pleaser. And it's not about being a Pollyanna and creating some kind of fake happy environment so everybody will be happy, because we all get that too. But there is somehow, this verse calls to me anyway, to pay a lot more attention, be much more mindful to what is going on in my mind. And what is my motivation? What's happening in every moment that's motivating a certain action? What's the thought that's behind a word, a speech, a phrase, a sentence? What's the thought that's behind an action? And really, from the point of view of wishing to develop loving kindness and compassion, what is the impact? What is my impact on my environment? So I'm going to put this back on my desk. And I'm going to look at the main verse again. So sensitive an ecology is the interdependence of all, that the slightest attention and assistance to others creates moral elevation for ourselves and humanity. Now that's encouraging. Slightest good. While the slightest indifference or neglect towards others creates moral harm for ourselves and civilization. Indifference or neglect, not to mention ill will, which causes the fires that he just talked about. So may we, in our practice, motivated by the aspiration to develop our love and compassion infinitely, just practice to be mindful and find these little clues that we can remind ourselves of repeatedly for what's the state of my mind, and work to cultivate an environment that is beneficial to our immediate surroundings and then has the bigger picture of benefiting all beings.